And the practice of so-called sanctuary cities. You see some here on your screen, those major urban areas that refuse to comply with federal laws regarding illegal immigration. But one lawmaker says Congress really doesn't need to wait for President Trump to take office. Texas Congressman John Culberson says he has a plan to force sanctuary cities to enforce federal laws by using the power of the purse. And he's going to tell us how it works. Congressman, thanks for joining us.
Good to be with you, Shannon.
Okay, so you say there's already basically a framework in place. If Mr. Trump wants to activate it, he can on January 20th. Tell us about that.
That's correct. I have quietly installed an off switch that the Department of Justice, Attorney General Loretta Lynch, at my request, changed official DOJ policy on July 7th and notified every state and every city in the country that unless you comply 100% of the time with federal requests to deport criminal illegal aliens in your jails or prisons, you will lose all your federal law enforcement money. Shannon, that's been the policy of the Department of Justice since July 7th. I just didn't make a lot of noise about it because I didn't want the Obama administration to crawfish on us. So it's done. This is in place. And at noon on January 20th, if President Trump chooses to do so, he can throw this switch I created and turn off all the federal law enforcement money to the top 10 sanctuary cities in America, including the entire state of California. New York City and Chicago, lights out on January 20th if he chooses.
Well, and you know that this is, as you said, this framework has been there. It has not been activated. You've also seen in the wake of the election a number of the mayors of these cities stand up and say, we are welcoming, we are going to protect people who are here illegally. Nothing is going to change. We don't care what President Trump is going to have to say about that. And they've also threatened to sue if the money is turned off. What then?
Well, suing will not do them any good. This is their decision. This is the law now as a result of what I've done on July 7th. If you want federal money, follow federal law. You must hand over every criminal illegal alien in your jails or prisons to federal authorities to be deported immediately, or you lose all your federal money. And if Mayor de Blasio and Mayor Emanuel continue to refuse to comply with federal requests to hand over these dangerous criminal aliens in their custody, not only do they lose all their federal money, Shannon, but the policy the Department of Justice put in place at my request says they will owe a refund of every dollar they've ever received from these federal grant programs over the last 10 years. That means the state of California, if they don't change, will have to write us, U.S. taxpayers, a check for $1.2 billion. New York City will owe us, as taxpayers, $211 million. And Rahm Emanuel, get your checkbook out. You're going to have to write America a check for $91.2 million, Mayor Emanuel, if you don't comply with requests to hand over these dangerous criminals. And that's who we're talking about, Shannon. Criminals convicted of crimes who are here illegally, who should be deported immediately when they finish their sentence. That's all we're talking about. Follow federal law or don't ask for federal money.
Well, what about the broader implications of this? Are you strictly talking about the people, as you mentioned, who've been convicted, they've served their sentences,
yes,
they're going to be released?
That's
or
correct.
Are we talking about more broadly what people think of sanctuary cities, allowing people to be there without the correct legal status, who are grandmothers, children, those kinds of things? Would this apply to them as well?
Well, the precedent that I've established as chairman of the subcommittee, creating this off switch, if you want federal money, follow federal law, can actually be applied more broadly, Shannon. And a lawsuit won't help them because the Supreme Court has ruled repeatedly that accepting federal money is a discretionary act. You don't have to accept federal money, but if you take the federal money, you have to accept all the strings that are attached to it. So it won't do them any good to sue. Just give up the money. If you want to protect criminal aliens in your custody, don't ask for federal money. And that precedent that I've created can apply much more broadly to other federal grant programs that are already in place. This works not only for law enforcement grants, but I believe it applies more broadly to community development grants, to other types of annual federal grant programs. The Trump administration, if they choose to do so, can make it apply much more broadly. But the days of asking for federal money and not following federal law, those days are over.
Okay, how do you respond to the critics who say some of this federal money that's feeding into these cities is doing important things? It's funding law enforcement, and you say community initiatives and all kinds of other things. Other people are going to be punished by this if the money goes away.
There's no question this federal money is doing good in these local communities, but that's the local mayor or county judge's decision. It's the governor of California's decision. The legislature in California gets to make the choice. If you want federal money, From now on, you have to follow federal law. This is simple. It's not our decision. This has been the law, by the way, Shannon. The law that I'm enforcing as chairman has been in place since 1996, and it was never enforced until I used the power of the purse to force the Department of Justice to put this policy in place July 7th. So this is up to the local folks. If the mayor refuses to follow federal law, get your checkbook out, Rahm Emanuel.
Okay.
They're going to owe us a refund.
All right. Congressman Culberson, keep us updated. We'll see what President Trump,
very much.
come January 20th, does or doesn't do with us. Great to have you with us today. Thanks.
Thank you.
Leland.